the question becomes, how do you do a segment proposal? You want to get on the air and you need to send a segment proposal. You can't just call up and say, oh, I'm an expert in, and then they're going to book you. No, you've got to do a segment proposal. So let's talk about how you do that. And you send those, by the way, to the segment producer. And how do you find out who the segment producer is? You either watch the station, if you're in the area, you watch the station and get the names, and they usually roll them at the end. If not, you've got to call and find out and ask, and they will tell you. So you send your proposal to the segment producer, and every show can have a segment producer of its own, or it can have 3 or 4 segment producers. Now, I was in a particular city, and I happened to be in my hotel room, and I turned on the TV, and there was this show going on. It was a local show, and I was watching it, and I thought, I would be perfect for this. So I waited and waited and waited and waited, and I waited till the end, and I wrote down these segment producers' names. I called the station right then and there. I mean, this is too good to be true. I mean, it doesn't happen that often. And I asked for the segment producer, got them on the phone and said, you know who I was. I'm Dr. Gail Carson. I'm the SOB, the spunky old broad, and I have a wonderful segment on the 3 worst mistakes that a person over 50 makes when trying to start a second career. They booked me right away. I mean, I got on, I think I was on within 2 days. So, I mean, it was just lucky. It was the right one. It was a perfect segment for them, and so forth. But it can happen like that. But you better have your segment ready for them. That's the important thing. Know what it is you want to talk about. So make sure that you know where you fit in and that you fit their demographic. Now, I have been successful in getting on most of the shows that I wanted to get on. However, there was one person who turned me down. It was not just one person who turned me down, but in this particular case, one person turned me down because I did not fit their demographic. They were in LA and they just catered to a younger audience. And since my segments were all about the over 50 market, it was not a segment for them, even though other people said, this is perfect because we don't have enough segments for them. Then here's another thing that happened to me. I think you'll find this very interesting. One of the stations, I won't name which one, but it was in New England, said to me, oh, I could never tell my boss about you. And I said, why not? Spunky old broad, SOB, it's too risque. Well, I thought I was going to crack up because I thought, I've never heard that before. You know, most people think it's cute. Most people like it. The stations like it because it's a little controversial, and then they explain it. This is the original SOB, spunky old broad. That's what she calls herself. And they say it all the time when they're interviewing me. But this station, I was just too risque for them. So you're going to hear everything. I'm too risque. They have too young a segment population, whatever it happens to be. So the important thing is that you know who you're applying to and you know what the demographic is. And because you think a segment is fantastic does not mean that the producer thinks it's fantastic. Believe me when I tell you, they accept the craziest things to be on camera and turn down very worthwhile things. There's no real formula except how you put this segment proposal together. Again, know what it takes. You may have the best segment proposal, but you'll probably have to email it 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You'll probably have to follow up with a phone call 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and you're going to get discouraged. I've gotten discouraged. I mean, it's not easy getting on that phone, and you've got to get them at the right time, because I told you the show that I had to be there at 5:30 in the morning. Well, they do the show from 6 to 8. I can tell you that producer's out of there by 9, 9:30 in the morning. She has to be there. He has to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning. By 9 o'clock, 9:30, they're gone. So you've got to know when those producers are there and when you can get a hold of them. If you're doing, let's say, a 4 o'clock in the afternoon segment, maybe they come in at 1 or 2, but they're gone by 6. So again, you just have to be aware of this. And you just have to be knowledgeable. Now, let me tell you a couple of other things, too, that you have to do. If you're going to be coming in from out of town, you need to get there, of course, the night before, which means you need to take an early flight, because if you take the last flight out, with today's flights the way they are, they just may not fly. So you have to make sure that you are on one enough to get you there on time. Now, let me tell you what happened to me, and it was very hurtful for me, but it just was the way it was. I had booked to go from Fort Lauderdale to, I can't remember whether now it was, I think it was either Albuquerque or it was, well, it was one of the western cities. It was either in New Mexico or in Arizona, or where I was doing a 3-city tour. And I had booked late afternoon. Well, there were storms, and planes couldn't get in and planes couldn't get out. I got rerouted 3 times, booked on 3 different planes, and never got out. Now it's about 8 o'clock at night. It's about 8 o'clock at night, and I have to be able to find the producer for an early morning show. This was not the easiest thing to do. So I called the station, and of course I got voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, but I thought, if I don't show up there tomorrow morning, what's going to happen? So I called and called. I think I finally got somebody in engineering, and I said, I need to talk to so-and-so, gave the host's name. And he said, well, he's not going to be here till tomorrow morning. I said, I know that, but I need to talk to somebody connected with the show, either an assistant producer or someone who worked. I think I was going to be on at 9 o'clock. And I said, I can't get there. I said, I really need to talk to somebody. So I said, here's my cell number. I'm sitting in the airport. I said, here's my cell number, and have someone call me or call me back with their number so I can get in touch with them. Well, whoever it was got in touch with the assistant producer, and she called me back probably within 15 minutes. And I said, look, this is how they had me routed now. So what they had done was, the last thing was they had routed me, and I was going to get in at 8:45 in the morning. So I think I was leaving like 4 o'clock in the morning or something. But I was going to get into wherever I was going at 8:45. And I told her, I said, this is the latest one, and this is the earliest I can get there. She said, we're going to have to cancel you because that's too close. Because even though the segment was from 9 to 10, if I get into the airport at 8:45, who knows when you deplane, get a taxi, whatever you do. So I didn't make the show. And even though I called, and even though I made sure they knew I wasn't coming, I kind of was blackballed. I never did make it on that show because they just, I don't know, I disappointed them. But just think, if I hadn't have called, what a bad rap I would have gotten. So at least I tried. But that's why I don't want you to take a late night flight in, because anything can happen. And with weather, and today there's no extra planes. So you just need to be aware of that, because it's very important. Now, if you decide that you want a clip of the show, which I'm assuming you do, because why would you be on it if you never got to see it or use it for promo or anything, you're going to either have to have the station do it for you, which is very hard to get them to do that today. They used to do it a lot, but no more. Or you have to go to a professional TV clipping service, which is what I do, because I don't want to fool around with it. I want to make sure I get it, and they seem to be able to find everything. So it does cost you, usually between $60 to $75 for a clip. So you have to get that, and then they will send it to you in an MP4 format, and then you can use it. You can upload it to YouTube. You can put it on your channel, on your website, however you want to use it. If you are good at finding them and can get that yourself, fine, do it. I am not good at that. I don't want to worry about it. I just want to make sure it's done. So I do pay a service for it. And they really do send it to you in a good format. It's clear. It's wonderful. So that's something you should do as well. Now, another point that you need to know is that if you do a good job, you will be asked back. Now, that does mean, of course, that you have to get back there. And nobody pays your airfare. Nobody pays your hotel. Nobody does your makeup. And nobody does your hair unless you're on Good Morning America or the Today Show or something like that. Even though you're doing a show in a local market, you have to do all of this yourself. You have to do your own hair, your own makeup. You have to get yourself there. You may have to rent a car, or else you take a taxi, or if you really want to go for broke, you can get a limo service to take you around. When I was doing some radio shows, that's what I did. I got a limo service. I mean, they thought I was the cat's meow. They thought I was the biggest celebrity they'd ever had. This was in Kansas City, but normally you don't do that. Normally you drive yourself. But the important thing is that you are really the one that makes sure that you're there, how you get there. Always be cordial, always be graceful. Just remember that if they say, we want you back, that doesn't mean tomorrow, and that doesn't mean the next week. It means give us a call maybe in another 6 to 8 weeks when you have a new segment prepared, and then we'll see if we can get you on again. And then remember, you could have spent the money. You could have gone there. You could have paid airfare, hotel, meals, car. And if there's a tragedy, you're not on. And you may not be on for 3, 4, 5 days if they keep covering it as an emergency tragedy. So you're just out of luck. Now, you may be able to book back later, but that's double expense because you've already paid to get there and do that. Sometimes, I had one time where I was not able to get on because of a particular circumstance, and they taped the segment, and then they used it on a show later on, and I had to find out when it was on so that I could get the TV clipping service to be able to get the clip for me. I did get it. But, I mean, strange things happen. That's just the way it is, and you have to be prepared for it. Now, I told you to make sure that you try to have celebrities tied in with your segments. And I want to reiterate that because that's very important. And again, who a celebrity is to you may not be a celebrity to somebody else. Especially, for example, let's say you're a doctor and you've got some great thing that you've created that you want to get out, and you've written a book and you want people to know about the book. Who is the celebrity you're going to use? Is it another doctor? Are you going to take somebody from the National Institute of Health? Are you going to take somebody who's a premier person who they all know? I mean, you've got to make sure that whatever celebrity you get, it's tied into not only your topic, but the people who are watching the show have an idea of who this person is. Because if they don't, it's not going to have any kind of an impression, and it doesn't mean anything. So again, that's a key factor, and you want to make sure that you do this. And remember, always, of course, you've got to smile, you've got to use your hand gestures. That's why if you are using your hands, especially women, well, men too, you've got to have a manicured hand. You can't have nails that look bad. Men especially have to have clean hands. You may not have, well, you should have a manicure actually, because if your hands are showing, you want to make sure that they look good. So just make sure that you have all of those things under control. The other thing that's really, really, really important is a hook. What is the hook? If you don't have a hook, they're never going to buy into the segment. So, for example, when I talk about the 3 worst mistakes that you make when starting a second career, there's a lot of other people today who have cities who have over 50 population and have communities of over 50. They're built specially communities for the over 50 or 55 population. And since we know there's problems with the economy, people are going back to work, or they've been downsized or right-sized and are going back to work. So what are the 3 worst mistakes? It could be on, as I say, health. It could be on finding a relationship. For example, in my particular genre, the over 50 market, I might talk about what do you have to do to attract your loved one in the second half of your life. It could be something like that. And then I could use celebrities who have found love in their second half of their life. For example, you could use Barbra Streisand. I mean, she went through a rocky road to begin with, so I could use her as a celebrity. So in other words, there's just a whole bunch of ways of doing this, but you need to make sure that there's a hook. And there's a lot of people who are over 50 who are divorced or have been lost their spouse or just are ready for a new relationship. And so that's going to get a lot of buzz, and it's controversial, and it's exciting. So how do I attract the person of my dreams? Whether it's male or female, How do I track my dreams? So again, that would be a great segment. It has to be easily understood. I told you about not having any jargon, but the whole thing has got to be easily understood. How do I attract this other love of my life? What do I have to do? Do I do it online? Do I go to social events? Do I network? Do I go to my friends and say, fix me up? I mean, you know, in other words, it's got to be very clear, the message that I'm trying to send. And if it isn't, then that's confusion, and that's not going to be good. However, the power of mass media is amazing. I mean, it is just everywhere. And today, with social media the way it is, and you can find some really good leads on social media. Reporters seem to like Twitter for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but they like Twitter, and they'll go on Twitter a lot to see who is saying what, maybe pick them up for a comment or an interview or something. Or they may even post something on Twitter and say, you know, this is subjects that we're covering. Anybody have any interesting news on it? But I can tell you, you can get amazing coverage when you have mass media. I mean, it can go from a news station to a published article, to a print newspaper, to online publications, to blogs. I mean, there's so much that can happen from all of this. Mass media is amazing. Now, one of the reasons why you have to have a plan and you have to stick to it is because you do want to get coverage in so many different areas. So that's why, you know, if you can plan to be in a particular city and maybe do TV and then maybe do radio, maybe be interviewed by the newspaper or by the business community or whatever it happens to be, if you can have a plan to do all of those things when you're a city, that's getting bang for your buck because you're there anyway. You spent the money anyway, so you might as well be able to get all of that accomplished. Now, you've got to be assertive when you approach these producers. Now, not aggressive. Don't get hostile with them. And don't be passive. Oh, okay, it's all right. Be assertive. Say, I have a really great segment that I know your audience would be interested in. And this is what it is. And you can give them a little tidbit. And then what they normally will say, well, send me something. And then you send them your segment proposal. But the important thing is that you've got to be assertive because they're going to just pass you off if you're not really strong. Very important. And I know that many of you want to get on shows because you want to publicize your book. Remember something. A book really doesn't make you money. Books are great business cards. Books are great to get you notoriety. Books are great to position you. But to make money, you're not going to make money off of a book. Because most people expect to buy a book for $9.95 or $19.95, so maybe 20 bucks. If it's a hardcover book, maybe they'll pay up to $30, $35 for it. But, you know, if you're just somebody and they haven't heard of you, but the subject sounds interesting, they don't want to really spend more than $20 or $25. So the important thing is use the book as the hook to get on. Make sure that it's very good material. Then have the theme. Remember, still use the celebrities. You can still use the celebrities. Have the theme, and it will get you on. But it's not going to necessarily sell a lot of books. Yes, I have sold books on television. But in the scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. So just be aware. And if you find something that is really controversial or very current, you can even make up a new book, put up a dummy cover. You know, you can put something together really quickly, but just enough so you can show it on air. And then if anybody wants the book or orders the book, you can always write it at that point. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But the important thing is you can even create a fake cover if it has to do with a very controversial topic that's going on at the present time. Do I suggest that? No, but you can do it. It will get you on the air if it's something you're interested in. And as long as you really are going to write that book, if someone is interested in it, that's all that counts. And 99% out of 100 times, they do not ask you about the book. I mean, they'll say, well, why do you think such and such? But they won't ask you to really, you know, give them the book or people won't write in and say, I want that book. I mean, if they do, it's very rare. But just know that there are people that do that. I talked about watching the shows to see if you're a fit. And I know that you do want to use this platform to get publicity for your book. But you just want to make sure that if you're only promoting a book and they say no, and you want to be on that show, you better have other segments ready. I have 4, 5, 6 different segments, and I've included some of them in this product, so you'll be able to see what they're like and know what to do. However, you have to be able to have a couple of different ideas. If you're a one-trick pony, it's going to be much more difficult for you to get on the shows. I've had people say to me, I'm really not interested in that segment about getting second jobs. What else do you have? Or I've had people say to me, I don't want somebody to sit there and talk about that. I want something lively. I want something with excitement, which is why I came up with that workout segment, because that's moving and it's energetic. But I had to come up with that like on the fly, because I was focused on my 3 worst mistakes that you can make when getting a second career. And they said, we don't want that. And so they said, what else can you do that's a little bit lively? And I said, well, I can do a workout for seniors. Well, they love that. So again, just, be more than a one-trick pony. I've talked a little bit about social media. I'm not a social media expert, so I don't want to tell you that I know everything about that. I just want to tell you that I do know that reporters are on Twitter. So if you can use that in any way, that's important. But again, I do want to give you 2 media resources. One is Cision.com, spelled Cision.com. There's a charge for these. And the other is Burrell's Luce, BURRELLESLUCE.com. Both of these will give you access to people. There is a charge for these, but it will give you access to people. Well, I hope that was good for you. I hope you learned a lot of media tips. I tried to include a lot of things in the TV portion. I've got radio to go yet, but the TV is a little more complicated than radio is. So that's why I wanted to spend the majority of time on TV. And most people like to be on TV. So that's why I wanted to spend the time with you. But I hope that was helpful for you. And if it wasn't, and you have questions, remember, you can go to my website and post a comment there, or you can email me at gailcarson13@gmail.com. I'll be glad to help you in any way at all. And of course, we have more in-depth training. We have the media boot camp that we do, and then I do private coaching. So any way I can help you, I'd be more than happy to. But hang on, because we're going to talk about radio now.